Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Cossack B, and I want to show you why I rated this ship so highly this Black Friday. This ship is pretty incredible as a Tier 8 destroyer. You gain 5.5 kilometer detect, so we're easily outspotting this Fletcher, and combine it with more DPM than that Fletcher has on our main guns. Yes, that was nearly a 4k damage initial salvo. Follow-up salvo, another 3.5. So you're easily outspotting all of these people, and you're doing more damage. There are some downsides, don't worry, but this ship is incredibly powerful. It gets more powerful the better you are at the game, and the better you can exploit this amazing concealment. You do have some nice consumables as well. You got an engine boost as well as the personal hydro. It's not going to get you a lot of range as far as hydroing other destroyers in smoke. It's more designed around not eating torpedoes yourself, and that is very, very useful. Also, you get the British smokes that come up very, very quickly, but don't last very long. And in my opinion, that's an advantage for this ship. It allows it to go dark rather quickly as a get out of jail free card almost, assuming there's no radars. And that's really useful for keeping this ship alive. You have 18,000 HP when you're running Survivability Expert, and no heals here at all. Comparing that to the Lightning at Tier 8, it's just a better ship in my opinion. Sure, you're lacking a little bit on the torpedoes, but your DPM of your main guns is way better. Some problems with the arcs, like the firing angles, don't get me wrong, but it's so nice to have these guns, man. And look at this maneuverability. Look at our rudder just moving around. It's so maneuverable. You can actually dodge a lot of incoming fire with this ship, especially if you're playing around with your acceleration. This ship has baked in British acceleration, so there's no need to run propulsion mod. You can't even slot propulsion mod. That's how good this acceleration is. So if you can, run this ship around 3/4 or even half speed when you think someone's about to shoot you, instantly go up to full speed with an engine boost even, and a lot of the times they're going to miss, let alone using your rudder to dodge incoming fire. It's a very maneuverable ship. It's large, to be fair. It's high out of the water, and it's a little bit longer than a lot of the British destroyers like you might be used to, since it has that extra gun turret in the back. Torpedoes, of course, I gotta mention, there are weaknesses. The ship does only have one torp tube launcher of 4 torps. That is all. So it's going to suffer if you're trying to torp out enemy ships. If you're a torp boat player, this is not the one for you. Definitely go take a look at a Zascio, for example. But if you like gunboats, this one is very, very fun to play. The torps are actually daring torps at Tier 8, so you get more damage as well as getting yourself some more flood chance. I mean, that's pretty minor, but 62 knots of speed is not amazing on these torps, but 1.3 kilometer detect means it's a 7.8 second reaction time. Not the worst, certainly, and they do good damage, like I mentioned. You do around 1,000 more damage per torpedo than the Lightning would do. And that reload, I mean, 66 second reload compared to Lightning's 96 second reload base. And then if you go to the higher tier British destroyers, you're gonna see 133 second reload on Jutland, 125 on Daring. Those get more torpedoes though, to be fair. But as far as torpedo DPM goes, it's 60, almost 61,000 torpedo DPM, and Lightning's got almost 80,000. For losing a whole torp launcher, that's not so bad. Certainly you don't have the wide spreads or the ability to launch a lot of torps at once to kind of guarantee some hits. That's going to be the downside, of course, there. But it's not bad, and you get the single launch option, and we're going to see that be very useful throughout this video. It's so nice to be able to make an even narrower spread than you would normally see on a lot of other destroyers. And to guarantee a little bit less randomness, there's some RNG when you're launching your torps. I'm sure you've seen it. Those middle torpedoes are sometimes stacked right on top of one another off to the side, and of course, the ship you're torping inevitably ends up in the gap, doesn't it? So it's so nice about these single launch torpedoes. As you can see, the AA kinda sucks. But we're maneuvering. We're trying to dodge all of this incoming fire while still getting some damage on target. Up to 92,000 in this one. It's not looking so good for our team, of course, but we are giving it our best effort. This destroyer is incredible at winning games. If you're playing it in ranked, this is an absolute menace. This is one of the destroyers I hate dealing with, because how do you deal with it as an enemy destroyer to this ship when it has very good DPM on these guns while also having the spotting and concealment of torp boat DDs? It's so hard to deal with, especially when there's someone good playing it. It is very, very difficult to deal with. That said, it can die relatively easily. 18,000 HP is decent, but it's not enough to go open water gunboating. Certainly, the shell velocity is nowhere near enough to go open water gunboating most of the time. You can make it work, but realistically, you should be using these smokes to set up briefly, farm someone, and then reposition. And you're going to notice throughout all of the clips I have here, I don't really run out of the smokes. If I was playing this ship more, this class more, the British destroyers specifically, yeah, I would be using the smokes much more aggressively, I think. We do end up losing this game, but man, I tried to bring it back, and this is a pretty cool example of just how much the ship can do, even on its own. Certainly, teammates are going to help you out quite a lot. In this game, we're going to push for A rather aggressively. Not much for radars to worry about here. And look at that! We spot ourselves a Kagero. We basically spot each other at the same time. 5.4 detect on a Kagero at its best, and we have 5.5. And we're way better when it comes to our guns. It's crazy. And he's going to torp us, of course, right? When you're a torpedo DD, you want to torp out that gunboat that is chasing you, that's maybe smoked up and firing its guns from smoke. But we have the personal hydro. It's shockingly comfortable to play this thing. The real big counters to it are going to be people just running away. It's not great at range. The shell velocity, of course, but also the slow torpedoes isn't going to do a whole lot. It wants to get up close and, I don't know about brawl it out. That's not really the best way of putting it, but get closer to enemy ships and then use these smokes and that to get away. Although this time I'm not going to do that. The ship is maneuverable enough that even at these ranges, you can often get people to miss. Our torps, though, launched into that smoke, get a couple of hits as well. 10 kilometers of range is decent. It's certainly enough at tier 8. I was complaining about that on La Pampa. Tier 10, 10.5 kilometer torps isn't quite enough, in my opinion. But at tier 8, it's okay, especially considering that's not the strong suit of Cossack. That's the other main component of La Pampa. That's basically all it does, is torp things out. So for them to be so limited in range, kind of hurts. Here, outspot the Ostergotland. Oh yes, and then we get over 3k in our first salvo. You're basically guaranteed the first salvo in any engagement. And in a situation like this, where I have teammates that are able to spot, if that destroyer shoots, then we wait for him to shoot, we smoke up, he's spotted, we're not, and we're dealing a ton of damage. It's very strong, guys. It is a very strong DD. I like it a lot because I like gunboat DDs a lot. I love the battle impact you can have. Bullying enemy destroyers out of caps feels so good. It's so nice to get that advantage for your team. Anytime I'm playing other ships, I'm always talking about this. If you want to help your team win games as a cruiser or a battleship, you got to help in that DD engagement. But you will have the most impact on that destroyer engagement when you're the one playing the destroyer, right? And Cossack is an excellent example for that. Insta double fire on that Massachusetts after he damage controls. I'm not a fan of those instant fires after your damage control runs out when I'm playing a battleship, but hey, Cossack, when I'm playing that one, I will gladly take it. We have an 8% fire chance base, so way higher than any of those American destroyers I was talking about. They have like 5% base. So very, very nice for farming and lighting a lot of fires. And considering these smokes are fast cooldown, it's so nice to just set up, light some fires on a battleship, and then reposition, and then go light some more after they damage control or something like that. Notice this shell velocity, though. Trying to hit this destroyer who's just straight lining even. Very, very difficult. So don't be taking range mod or anything like that. You're going to notice that's not on our build, and I don't think that is a good idea. Only 67,000 damage in this one. Not an insane game, but a lot of battle impact. We're going for caps. We're shooting destroyers. So that means we get a lot of credits still and are going to place rather well, over 2k base XP in this game. For relatively low damage, I would say. Tier 8s, of course, giving you good credit income, and certainly destroyers do quite well with that, going after cap zones and shooting enemy DDs. That's going to get you more base XP, of course. We have so many smokes, may as well use them to avoid the planes, right? Assuming there's no radars, it's very nice to avoid the planes. People will blind drop you, though. I certainly find that happens quite a lot. Carriers will be blind dropping you. Your mileage may vary on that, but it does happen. So even still, even though I'm in the smoke, I'm keeping my AA turned off. I don't want to tell them exactly where I am to blind drop me. There's some very good players out there who will see where your AA is coming from and get a reasonably accurate blind drop in on you. So for that reason, keeping our AA off, even though it basically matches our AA range, or our plane spotting range, I guess I should say. So in the normal open water scenarios, it's fine to leave it on for the most part, but still, there are situations where it is important. Spamming those single launch torpedoes at that battleship. I did miss them, by the way, but it's a nice tool to have. Azuma here pushing in, and this is exactly what you want to do with this ship. Wait for the enemy ships to be in a not so good position where your teammates, this is crucial, where your teammates are still able to spot them, and then you can farm them. Notice that Iparanga wasn't detected until he shot, and then his smoke detection, I guess, allowed us to spot him again. But we can't actually farm him that easily from inside this smoke because, well, he's not being detected by us normally. Although I think our teammates are getting enough angle that we now have decent spotting, and hoping we can get a fire out of this last smoke puff. And something else I want you to notice about these smokes is just the timer. That smoke timer in that top left corner, it's gone now that this smoke is gone, but notice how it ticks down to 0 and then jumps back up again. There's a bug in the game right now. It's been in the game for almost a year, maybe not quite that long, where your smoke timer doesn't actually tell you the duration of your smoke, the bubble that you're in. It tells you the duration of the smoke puff that's about to disappear. So considering our smoke lasts a few seconds, you get a few puffs out of it, it tells you the duration, this 30 seconds, 29, 28, 27, like that. It's telling you the duration of the smoke puffs that's going to disappear first. But considering our consumable lasts a certain amount of time, the smoke's actually going to last longer than what that timer says. And that's very annoying when you're playing a ship with such short smoke durations. It makes you think, oh, I got to panic and reposition right away, when realistically, you have quite a bit more time in this smoke. Notice 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and then it goes back up. It's a minor thing, but it is annoying, all right? It is annoying when playing this ship. I was not very happy with that. I was often leaving my smoke way sooner than I had to. You know, as when you're paying attention to the game, you should be keeping an eye out when you need to be repositioning. And on to a game where we're losing quite badly, and I've done almost no damage. Got a little spotting damage, but almost no damage. Almost 10 minutes into this game here. And I want to show you what happens when an enemy team wants to push into destroyers. This is where the ship is at its strongest. I spawned middle here, actually, and I capped a B to start with, and then made my way out to the flank because we didn't really have destroyers spotting the flank, and that's really important. You need people to be spotting, especially on this map, this flank. Otherwise, your team kind of just gets run over like ours has here. Los Andes, we are spotting, but notice his secondaries are shooting. Charles Martel is going to be spotting. That allows me to pop my smoke. I'm always going to be waiting for that. I don't want to use my smoke and then realize, oh no, I was the one spotting and I just wasted a smoke. It's fine because we have so many smoke charges, but it does mean we're just not getting damage in on ships. And notice Los Andes goes dark because he's got such good concealment. Our fire chance, though, helping us out quite a bit. Gets him lit again and hoping to get another fire. Looks like he used his damage control. So yeah, and there's the double fire. We're going to get quite a bit of damage off of this guy just from fires and maybe a flooding as well. I haven't really talked about the price on this ship. I've just been talking up how good it is and how much I enjoy it. So we probably should talk about that while we ramp our damage quite significantly in this game. It is 6,850 doubloons. Very nice to see this ship available for doubloons. Thank you, Wargaming. It's not a guarantee, I suppose, these days, considering some of the ships you guys probably want the most are only available for real money purchase. Yes, I'm bringing it up even in a video where the ship is available for doubloons, because I don't think Wargaming should have done that, and I really wish they hadn't. I need them to know next year, please. Make it a good Black Friday where everything's available for doubloons. But back to the price, back to the Cossack. It's so good for that price, man. It is such a strong tier 8 destroyer. I don't really play competitive anymore. I haven't for years, 4, 5 years, something like that. But I'm assuming Cossack is used quite a lot in tier 8 clan battles. I don't know that for sure. Some of you who play more comp could let me know. Let us know in the comments below. But even for just randoms, solo ranked play, it is incredible. If you're into gunboat DDs, totally get it. If you're not, if you're like the torp boats more, I mean, the torps aren't bad on this thing either, but I get it that gunboats are a little bit of a different play style. Another torp hit though, by the way, on that Los Andes. So much fire and flood damage just for 2 fires and 2 floods. But yeah, for 6,850 doubloons, if you got the doubloons, if you got the cash, this is one of the better destroyers available, especially at tier 8. It is very different than the Lightning, I would say. I certainly enjoy this one much more. A little more focused on those guns, and that concealment is just so nice to have. You do have to get used to the short burst smokes, and no heal on this one. The British destroyers at tier 9 start to get a heal, which is very nice. That's one of the things that makes Daring so comfortable to play. You get that ability to come back from making mistakes or take engagements that otherwise maybe you shouldn't. For example, we're going to have to fight a Cleveland here. We deal with the enemy Cossack. He's very low. No heal means, again, as your HP goes down, 18k HP is fine at tier 8, but it can certainly dwindle quite quickly, especially into some of those tier 10 games. We're getting surrounded at this point, so yeah, we just have to take the engagement with the Cleveland at 5.5 kilometers. Oh boy. Gotta go for superstructure. Notice I'm not really shooting much armor piercing here. It's at tier 9 and 10 where those British DDs get some nice improved pen angles. This is just lightning AP, which is fine. It's got okay fuse times. It's got the shorter fuse times, but it doesn't have the pen angles like the Daring and the Jutland have. So I'm not really using the AP quite as much. Against flat broadsides, I probably should be. That would be the better way to play it. But the HE just does so much damage that I want to be using that. We use our smoke to try and bait out the radar there, and then I didn't realize the Shima would be spotting me anyway. But it actually baited the Cleveland radar anyway, so we got there. Fortunately, our smoke is back up in less than 30 seconds, so if we can deal with this Shimakaze, we should be fine. I'm a little paranoid here about Cleveland shots, about Montana shots from the B cap there, and so I'm not exactly doing my best job dodging the Shima's incoming fire here. He doesn't have the best DPM, but those shells do quite a lot of damage. And hopefully we can finish him off here. But yeah, flat broadside, we're going to take quite a bit of damage. That's where you need to be playing with your rudder as well as your engine boost, or your speed. Using my smoke at full speed here means I go dark anyway. I recognized that the Montana Preussen were the ones spotting me. The Cleveland was behind our friendly destroyer smoke, and that allowed me to go dark instantly, even though I didn't stop in my smoke. These little things, little awareness things, can help you when you're playing your destroyers. Also, just instantly opening up again on the Cleveland. Our only chance here is to kill this Cleveland, and either of us on our own probably loses to the Cleveland, even on his low HP there. So combining our firepower, we're going to try and take him out. Seeing again that fire chance is very nice. But we do end up losing this one, unfortunately. But managed to get up to 82,000 damage. Considering I had essentially 0 damage done at the 10-minute mark, that's a pretty decent last stand, last final fight there. But tier 10 games can be rough, certainly. The up tiers are hard. You don't have the ability to do a lot of battle impact type things outside of capping and spotting, unless the enemy team is playing more aggressive. You're not going to be open water gunboating at tier 10. And the torp power, it's really not there. It's more of a gunboat, of course. On to our last game. This one is more of just a funny one. This is a fun one where, yeah, our Yari insta-kills 2 destroyers. This might be the best randoms battles team I've ever had. It's kind of crazy. I'm a little worried about Ragnar Radar there. That's why I did not stay in the cap. And I think that was a good choice. Kind of get behind the island, save some of our HP there. Ragnar, an absolutely terrifying destroyer to fight as a Cossack. Your concealment advantage is totally destroyed there with his radar. And Ragnar has some plating that will shatter our HE if we don't hit the right spot. 3 shatters there. Yeah, we would lose very quickly to a Ragnar. So we're going to play it a little bit cautious. Although it looks like the enemy team is mostly playing for the C cap. Their guys at A are kiting this way. So let's go out there and see just how good destroyers can be when the battleships push in. This is what I was hoping for, actually, when I was playing La Pampa or Azaccio more. I just did not see the games where all these Pan-American battleships in the game and they just weren't pushing as much. I didn't see it. I know they are. I know they exist. And certainly in this game that's going to happen. But I'm not in the torp boat for it. Feels bad. But that's okay, because Cossack still does an excellent job of punishing these people pushing in. And look, I mean, look at this. All their destroyers and submarine are dead within 4.5 minutes of the game starting. It's just ridiculous. So now it's just time to farm these battleships. And we're going to do that with the help of our 2 other destroyers on this flank. Absolute nightmare for these battleships to push into. And hopefully we can do some good damage here with these smokes. Not going to open up an open water gunboat. Well, there's a Libertad around, a Cerberus, Iparanga, St. Vincent. Yeah, that would not go so well. We lose a lot of HP. So we smoke, and then we farm for a bit. And then we smoke up a little bit later, reposition, and then we farm for a bit. That's kind of the playstyle here of Cossack when you get these opportunities. Still spamming your torpedoes when it's available. They still do good damage, but it is a little bit harder to find the lead on target since you're not launching as many torpedoes. You can't cover as much area. In this case, though, we do take out the Iparanga. That was mostly with the help of our friendly destroyers, though. Their torps, they have a lot more of them and do much more damage. At least the Orage does in this case. Vincent pushing as well, a little bit spooky. As much fun as it is to farm these battleships as these push in, you still have to be a little careful. You don't want to get caught by them. They still do quite a lot of damage, so guess what? Smoke's available, and we smoke up and are able to farm again for free. It's comfortable, man. I find this to be a very comfortable tier 8 destroyer to play. It's a little bit awkward at tier 10, but let's be honest here. What tier 8 isn't going to be a bit uncomfortable out of its depth at tier 10? I think that's pretty common. So for this ship to have such good concealment, even in tier 10 destroyers, I hate fighting Cossacks, man. There's been times where I've been playing a gearing and then I run into a Cossack on my flank. He's out spotting me. He's getting the initial salvo that does like 4,000 damage to my gearing. And I'm like, what happened? This is a tier 8. It's a scary ship to deal with, man. Our personal hydro here helping us out because Vincent has torps that do more than our entire HP pool. So gotta watch out for those nuclear torps from that guy. And smoke is out, unfortunately, so we're caught open water. But look at that, 10 seconds from now, we're got our smoke back. Sure, we take some damage, but smoke is up in time for the next Vincent salvo, if he has one. Propulsion there, helping us, I think, avoid some of that Brindisi salvo. And as well as an Amagi. The one downside, of course, is that as a British ship, you don't stop very well. So if you do get caught out, you're going to take some damage before you can actually stop in your smoke. And it's going to be very, very predictable. If you've ever seen or played the Minotaur, that's the word, Minotaur at tier 10 or Neptune, of course, any of those British light cruisers, you know what happens when you get caught and then try to slow down in your smoke. All the battleships see that, and it's just the most predictable thing ever. Certainly, it is the same with destroyers, although you don't have some of the largest citadels in the game there. So you're not punished quite as hard, but if there's some HE, some strong HE ships, yeah, you can lose so much HP. sometimes it's a better idea to just forego your smoke and pretend like you're going to slow down in it, and then use your engine boost, and as they shoot at you, instantly go back up to full speed because of the acceleration. You can do that and avoid their salvo. That is an option. Rushing an Amagi here, we got to try and juke his salvo, so trying to drift around like British ships tend to do sometimes. We avoid some of that first shot, but we got to be careful about his other turrets and secondaries. Oh my goodness. Sure, maybe Amagi doesn't have the best secondaries, but at this range, they just don't miss. That was a lot of damage. And we managed to survive on 1,000 HP. It was a blowout. Most of our damage was in the garbage time where the game was over. They had lost all their destroyers by the time I started doing damage, but it's nice to see how a Cossack even can farm quite a bit of damage off of those battleships, even though it's not the best torp boat, for example. And yes, our Yari was absolutely crushing the enemy team. Cossack is fun, man, but it is still a gunboat primarily. If you're interested in the torp boats, definitely this is not the one for you. But for gunboats, it's hard to get a better one at tier 8. Certainly not in this Black Friday sale. It's possible I've overhyped Cossack a little bit, I don't know, but for me, this is a ship that I enjoy quite a lot. And I wanted to share that with you guys today, why I like this ship so much and why it's such a good tier 8 gunboat. It really only feels like it's lacking battle impact in those up tier games where everybody camps at 20 plus kilometers. And even then, you can still be the cap zone bully, right? You could still go after and claim those caps, even against higher tier destroyers, assuming they're not the radar ones with insane armor like a Ragnar. It's quite the outlier, but against a lot of the normal tier 10 DDs even, you're still going to outspot them and have insane damage output still. It's a scary ship to deal with. And that's, I think, why I like it. It's such a strong ship. It's got a lot of gimmicks going for it, certainly. As you get better at DDs, I think you'll be able to take advantage and almost abuse those gimmicks more and make this ship more annoying to fight. It's very annoying to fight a good Cossack player, all right? Very, very frustrating just because the ship is so good. And the best players can certainly take advantage of it. And that's why in ranked, it's very, very good. I'm assuming in clan battles, it's also very good. And still does a great job in randoms. The build here looks like this, and notice, no prop mod, like I said. It's just built into the ship, basically. So you already have amazing acceleration, and then you just have an engine boost as well. While this is up, you almost instantly teleport to full speed. It's crazy. 5.5 kilometer detect, absolutely amazing. Since we're taking rudder mod instead of prop mod, 2.9 second rudder with a 610 turning radius. Crazy maneuverability. It's so nice. And with this short range hydro, you shouldn't really be eating torpedoes. It happens. I understand the hydro's on cooldown, but for the most part, you shouldn't be eating torpedoes, which is a very nice thing to have. Torps are not the strong point, but they do decent damage, and they reload relatively quickly as well. And you still have that single launch for those fun little Conga line dev strikes. They don't happen very often, but it's really funny when they do. Decent reload, not amazing, but 4.8 seconds on 8 guns. Keep in mind, 8 guns. That's a lot of firepower, and certainly with a 9% fire chance, at least here with these flags. You can even buff that more with the commander if you took Demo Expert. But here I'm kind of opting for a build with Fearless Brawler. I know, probably not the best use of skills, and certainly you could skip this one, especially if you're playing well and using your guns when you're in smoke and not risking your ship for open water gunboating, because it's really not worth it most of the time. But for those scenarios where I'm caught or I'm fighting a destroyer at close range and I can't smoke up because my teammates wouldn't then be spotting that destroyer and I want to keep them lit to maybe take them out, then I'm still lit, and then Fearless Brawler activates, buffing our DPM even further. It's really nice. Of course, taking Survivability Expert. Superintendent, you notice I was out of engine boosts and hydros in a lot of these games. So maybe Superintendent would be useful for that. Not really for the smokes. This is a situation, though, I think it's a lot like some of the French ships where I personally end up with a lot of reload boosters available when I'm playing those French ships with reload boosters. And you're just leaving damage on the table. That's just free damage that you could have had, or I could have had in this case, that I didn't get because I wasn't using those reload boosters aggressively enough. I think a similar argument is very easily made for how I play with the Cossack here and the smokes that I left on the table. I should have been using them more and getting more damage out of them, which also means a little less value from Fearless Brawler. So definitely can build it a few different ways, but running for guns is the recommended play in my opinion. And certainly want that extra HP. 18,000 is fine, but not dismiss, send to reserve. 15,200 is pretty bad base. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. Certainly it rivals some of those torp boats as far as HP. So you got the concealment, but also your HP, especially in those up tiers, feels like it's not quite there. And I should mention, you probably noticed, but this turret is actually a 360-degree turret. So when you're maneuvering, when you start kiting and maneuvering, it's really nice to have that extra DPM. And when you're kiting or when you're pushing forward, it's really easy to fire 3 turrets, but not all 4. You got to show a lot of broadside for all 4. So in situations where there's a lot of incoming fire, or, you know, maybe the enemy destroyer is also a good gunboat, I don't think it pays to always use all of your guns. Definitely want to be angling, using that rudder a lot of the time. And since your DPM is often dictated by this ship's alpha damage and the number of guns, less so the reload, you can afford to angle in and then angle out to fire, angle in again in this ship, where you're going to be a little bit tankier and still get a lot of your DPM online. Where destroyers, where they have a faster reload, they can't afford to lose that DPM and angle because they're just wasting reloads, where this ship isn't. It's a little bit like Atago in that way. It's one of the reasons I like Atago so much too, is that sure, it's got a long reload, but it's got high alpha damage, and it allows you to maneuver, dodge incoming fire in between reloads and save yourself some HP while not sacrificing that DPM. But that's probably enough on Cossack. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.